Hello and welcome to this week's video. This week we're going to look at perspective and how we need to be aware of two types of perspective that we can be using or observing within the landscape. The first one you've probably heard of, and that's called linear perspective. When I send this video out, I will also send an attachment to another video or a link to another video that I have done on 1 point and 2 point perspective. 1 point perspective can also be called parallel perspective, or 2 point perspective can be called oblique perspective. 1 point perspective deals very well with roads, things that are flat like that, a river, for example, and as long as that road is straight and not bending, or going up and down, the same with a river, you are fine to see the 1 point perspective. 2 point perspective starts to come into play, particularly when we're dealing with buildings and things like that. And a lot of the time when we are looking at the world, we're seeing more in 2 point perspective than we see in 1 point perspective. The other thing to remember is that, and that's why often in photographs, perspective is much easier to see. When you're looking at a landscape, if you close one eye and look at the landscape, you'll be able to see the 1 point and the 2 point perspective much more easily. It does rely on the effect of looking through one lens. So by looking through our two eyes, we actually diminish some of the effect of 1 point perspective. Another reason why a photograph will often look different to how we see the world. The main thing I want to deal with when we talk about linear perspective, though, is, as I mentioned before, is what happens to a surface when it goes up or down, and also if it starts to turn left and right. I'm just going to draw a quick little box here to talk about up and down. Hopefully this is relatively square. And what we're going to imagine is that there is our eye line, so the point at which everything disappears to. We have the vanishing point is on that horizon. We're looking down the middle of a road. So our road starts off from there and off it goes. I'm just going to let that fade out so we start to get a sense of where we're going here. And fades out. I'm just going to then draw that a little bit heavier like that. So we've got that. But suddenly that road tips downwards and goes down a slope. As soon as a road like this starts to then go down, what happens is that this vanishing point moves away from the eye line and it moves downwards so that it stays perpendicular to that. So it doesn't move over to here or here, it stays directly below, but it moves downwards. So if we move our vanishing point now downwards, and let's say the road started to move downwards from about this point here. So we're just going to start to maybe indicate just in now a bit of a point at which it moves. And it is going to move downwards from that point. That's it. So again, nice and soft, and then I'm going to now do that a little harder through there. just to make it easy to see and that you're not confused by all my lines. Soft and harder, like that. So then that road is now starting to tilt down. It tilts down to a point at about there, which again we'll just draw a nice gentle half-found line. So our road has gone down the hill to that point, which at that point it flattens out again. Now if it flattens out again, it flattens back out to our original vanishing point. So we go to our original vanishing point, meet up at the point where it flattens out, and soft line, and we're just then going to draw a hard line for that distance, and that gives us, again, these points at which it's changing are not arbitrary, I'm just giving them as slight indications. So we're going back up to that vanishing point, pale, 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 and hard. Then the road has started to travel back up again. Sorry, no, it started to flatten out. So even though it's gone down to here and the road has narrowed considerably much quicker than if it had stayed flat, it then starts to come back out again as it flattens and starts to meet back up with this vanishing point. Now if the road starts to head upwards again, and let's just find our upwards point, we then move that vanishing point like we did when it went downhill back above the vanishing point there on the eye line. If we're meeting up that we're going back to this same surface as we began on, we need to move up the same distance as we went below as we go above. If we go up considerably higher, that means that road is travelling then well above. So for instance, if the road dipped and then went above our eye line and kept climbing above our eye line, we'd be putting this up quite high, but we're going to come back just up to the point that which we were at before. And so this is where we're going to, isn't it? Yes, so we want to go about that same distance, so it's about 1 centimetre. So we'll go up to here, starting from here. And pale, 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 hard. Pale, 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 hard, so that you can see it. Now that road has started to come back up again, and then once we've reached our original, is that we can then just come back to our original vanishing point. And we've started to create that effect of the road passing downwards. So the road is flat, then it's going down, then it's going flat again, then it goes up, and then it goes flat again at the same level as we originally started off here. We can help reinforce some of that effect if we give it maybe a wee bit of shading. We'll go with a darker tone across there. The road might be a speck darker, and then we'll go dark again. And then we'll go there into a mid-tone, dark. Probably could be a bit darker. That might help reinforce the effect slightly. By toning the planes slightly differently. Hopefully that sort of starts to help give you an idea of what's going on. So it might be, and then they would, if there was a couple of posts sort of here and then posts, they would sort of go down, return, up, and off it goes. So that's if the road is parallel, doesn't change direction at all. If the road changes direction, so we're going to do something slightly different here. Is there's our eye line, and we're standing there looking at a road which is disappearing and going, so there's our eye line. And our vanishing point is here. Okay, so VP this time is right over the side. But we're looking maybe at a road that starts off, we just see a little bit of a flat road on the surface that we're standing on. And then the road very quickly might go uphill. Like so. To a point like that. So we've gone uphill, and it's gone uphill to a point that it changes direction because it continues uphill but is now going off in a different direction. What then happens is our vanishing points, and those positions of these we don't continue to follow and use these vanishing points. If the road changes direction, the vanishing point changes direction, and there can be actually a series of vanishing points depending on how severe the turn in the road here can be. So the road might continue up to the same height as this one here, but suddenly that vanishing point has moved over to the other side. And let's see, we could even go out beyond the picture plane. So if we then maneuver, we can follow those lines to there. What I would suggest here is that we move, and we can actually, to give a nicer curve, start to create a series of vanishing points along that same line at that height, and just to give it a little bit of a nicer curve as it starts to go around here. So there we go. That's a road suddenly going uphill. No, I haven't done that quite correctly. That should have gone to there. that to there. Then we do our maneuvers. That's better. So there's a road starting flat, going uphill, and then changing direction at the same and going off in that direction. So if there's a change of direction, the vanishing point moves along. You can also, what we've established here is that this is a slope going up at the same angle though. It's not changing the inclination is not changing because that vanishing point is remaining the same wherever it travels at that same height. So this road here was heading to a vanishing point at that same height. This road then continues in a different direction to a vanishing point at that same distance as it goes up. So flat and then up and up as it disappears into the distance, and it could be going in a different direction. This could have also been maybe a dip in the road, that the road continues on behind here, and then matches up, so you've got these things to consider as well.